collagen to make sure you have enough building blocks to rebuild those tendons really fast, or as fast as possible. Or you can do bone broth. There seems to be some collagen released into that as well.
Which I've been doing a lot of that, and I've actually come to like it. It's it's kind of like that cup of tea or cup of coffee if you just drink it by itself.
And I mean it's like the world's oldest comfort food.
Right.
And, I mean, and you have studies on chicken soup helping with like upper airway respiratory infections, so it does a lot of good. When you so vitamin C and some collagen makes a lot of sense. And those basics with vitamin D and omega-3 fatty acids. We also know zinc is important for recovery, but again, if you do a multivitamin or like ZMA, zinc, magnesium mixture might as well, that's really important for recovery. And those are very basic things. And then if you have a problem regulating inflammation, you can also try some of the herbal anti-inflammatories like curcumin from turmeric, ginger, boswellia, what else? You have actually rosehip extract. There's some good research on that as well, because a lot of these botanicals, if you take them at low to medium doses, they will not completely suppress inflammation, but they will take the top off, so to speak. And so you still get enough basal inflammation to facilitate healing and repair. So I think that's important. And then, although I work mostly with nutrition, there are also some, in terms of rehabilitation, the proper kind of training is really important. And what you want to do to make tendons and ligaments regrow is you want to do long, slow, sustained, controlled loading. They respond completely differently from muscles. So you want to do strength training, but not for your muscular strength, neither explosive or for like slow grinding, but what will make your structural strength increase. And that's where you have to slow the tempo down. So you can, like if you do, if you have firm Achilles tendon tear, when you get to the point where you can start doing some calf raises or just move your ankle, you want to do a tempo 4-2-4-2. So you're going to go for extension or contraction in 4 seconds, hold it for 2 seconds, and then reverse the movement 4 seconds. But it has to be completely slow and controlled. No acceleration, no deceleration, no plyometric loading. And there are studies out of Copenhagen University with Professor Henning Langberg, where for people who needed to do had partial or full reconstruction of their knee or Achilles tendon, or had shoulder problems like tear of some of the ligaments or muscles, and when they do that protocol with the slow, controlled strength training, either 2 sets per training sessions per day with body weight, or 3 times a week with barbells or dumbbells, or some sort of external loading. Within 12 months, they could usually increase the thickness of ligaments and tendons by about 50%.
Wow.
And also increase flexibility, so they're thicker, they're stronger, but more flexible. But only if people weren't on anti-inflammatories all the time. So then when they did those studies and they had a group of people who were on anti-inflammatories, or painkillers, not just once in a while, but constantly, the training seemed not to work. So so that's really slow training, and you want to do the full range of motion because you want to make sure the new collagen and the new tissue you're creating, that you immediately get it into shape. So you can actually mold to connective tissue when it regrows by doing controlled loading. So make sure that healing Achilles tendons, it gets flexible, it gets long enough, and also gets strong enough. But of course, you don't want to start loading it too early. But the moment you can do that,
then you start working on it.
You can start working on it. And also, I say, with CrossFit, I'd say probably the most common injury I see is that people quickly get to a point where their stamina and their strength lets them exert a sort of loading that they cannot sustain structurally. So they have the physical strength and stamina to do all these loaded movements, fast movements, but they do not have the structural strength, and so you need to train that. And of course, if you get an injury, but I'd like to see more prehab with that. So people spending time very slowly, moving slowly, even though say, but I want to do these things really fast and explosively. But you need to slow down initially, so you actually build a sort of structural strength base that enables you to handle that loading later on. I do some work with the Danish Royal Lifeguards, not as lifeguards on the beach, but the elite regiment that protects the Queen and the royal family. So I know their physical trainer really well, and I spar with him about nutrition and health. And they introduced CrossFit because they needed a highly effective way to get both the initial recruits into shape, also to stay in shape also because he works not just with the lifeguards but also the Danish equivalent of the Navy SEALs and Green Berets and so forth, and find something they could do when they were stationed in Afghanistan or Iraq and other hot spots. And so they found CrossFit's really effective because you get all these multiple domains of fitness, and you can do it with simple equipment, and the time invested is not that long, and you still stay rather fit. But initially they had a lot of injuries with the new recruits. So they said, okay, for the first 6 months, we're not going for any personal records. We want you to progress very slowly. We'll do lots of technique, and we'll do lots of build a structural strength foundation, and then we'll let you loose. Then you can go compete against each other and go for AMRAPs on time, and each minute on the minute workout where you push hard. And once they had that initial half year basic training, so to speak, all of a sudden they didn't have the injuries later on because they built a structural strength base that enabled them to handle the loading they subjected themselves to afterwards.
Yeah, that's huge. I think in 6 months too, people become so impatient and they say, okay, I'll do a month of my on-ramp and then I'm good to go. But I think that, CrossFit's charter of mechanics, consistency, and then intensity, it's so important, and it can take that long. 6 months, you just need to be patient and build your capacity there so you can handle the intensity.
Exactly.
So that's great to know.
And and then you think about it, like half a year, if you're in your 20s or 30s or even 40s, you haven't exercised for a while. Taking half a year to get the foundation in place, I mean, in
the grand scheme of things,
it's but a second, and you'll be so grateful later on because the price you pay, can be pretty severe. So I think that, and I think not just with CrossFit, but a lot of elite athletes, they have to think longer term and build a base. One of my really good friends is Peter Gade, who used to be one of the world's best badminton players, and he's now been hired as the national team coach for France, and he's also worked with the Danish national team. What's interesting with Denmark in badminton is when we look at our junior players and our under 21s, they're good, but they never win world championships, the Olympics or European championships, because they say we'll spend that time building a base, but then they peak after 21 and they can compete with the Chinese and the Koreans and the Indonesians, who also have long, proud traditions within badminton. And they say we'll sacrifice that top-end performance during your junior years and under 21s, because then you peak and you have the foundation. Here, of course, we're talking more about skill and being able to strategic thinking, but it means that in the long run they do so much better.
It pays off.
Even though they might not get these immediate, they get benefits immediate, but they get these super results immediately, but in the long term,
pays off. That's a great lesson for life in general, right? Most of the best things come when you put the time in or make those sacrifices ahead of time, and then they will pay off in the end. So that's great advice. And I love everything that you were talking about with athletes and with rehab, and also how you emphasize the fact that you need those few things in place first. Regardless of whether you're doing CrossFit, whether you're an elite athlete, whether you're rehabbing an injury, you can never underestimate just solid nutrition, sleep, stress, doing your exercise and building that foundation first. So that's huge. And I love that we can talk about all these details, but it's great for people to know you need to address those big things first.
I mean, there's the 20-80 principle. 20% of what you do will get you 80% of the results. So those 20%, that's sound sleep, proper nutrition, not making it more advanced than what you can handle, so it works in everyday life, stress reduction. That will get you 80% of the way. Then if you want to be super elite, you can do a whole lot more. But if you're still omitting what gets you 80% of the results, why would you bother with the rest?
Right.
Whether you want to be the world's best or you're national, champion, or you just want to have fun with your body and be healthy.
Right. Well, I want to end with 3 questions that I ask everyone. So hopefully this will be easy for you. But we're gonna go first with the 3 things that you do on a regular basis that you think have the biggest positive impact on your health.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's certainly movement. So I exercise every day. And I always scale exercise to what I feel like on the day. I like to push myself, but I'm now at the age of 38. I'm clever enough to understand if today I have a really hard workout planned and I don't feel like it, or I can feel it's too much, I'll downscale it. So I make sure that I move and exercise more or less every day. I do that. And then the vegetable thing, I just make sure I get my vegetables every day. So find whatever way to do it. Make juices, buy vegetable juices, eat lots of vegetables. When I travel, I always bring like greens powder with me, and I also bring freeze-dried beetroot powder, so I can, if everything else fails, I can at least put it in a shaker and get that. And then vegetables, and then I also make sure I get my protein in place, because that helps keep me satiated and so forth. So so those are two big things. And then for me also supplementation is important, because whether I'm cured from those diseases or have them under control, that can be debated from now and forever. But there are just certain things I know I need to have lots of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, probiotics, and I also need to take a few more esoteric things for energy production, because I had that chronic fatigue syndrome. And if I don't take them, I can feel within half a week to a week that things start going downhill again. So for me, those are extremely important. If I don't do them, I know I suffer immediately. And then sleep is in there as well. Although with my traveling, I don't always get my 8 hours that I should. But if I weren't on top of those other things, that would really decimate me. But I can get away with less when I really have to.
Okay. How about one thing that you think would help a lot, but maybe this is sleep for you, but that you don't always do, or you haven't been able to implement it into your life yet?
Sleep during certain periods is definitely one that, because I can feel the difference as well. I can still perform quite well when I'm not quite getting 8 hours, but when I get my 8 hours, that's
when you're at your best.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just overall, if you could explain what you think a healthy life looks like to you.
Well, I think a healthy life is, I think a great analogy also to get people motivated is to think of everything you do, what you eat, but also everything you do, it's like a dialogue with your body. So you're saying something, and you're saying it in a particular tone of voice, and you'll get a response. So if you eat something, essentially there are two ways you can start a conversation. Hey, great to see you, fantastic, right? And people, or you can extend your middle finger and say something rather rude, in which case people will be like, oh, well, wait a moment, I'm not going to cooperate. And so if you think, for your body, think of everything you do, what you eat, the input you give your body in terms of exercise, in terms of how you interact with people, what you do, experience. It's either like a declaration of love, in which case your body becomes very cooperative, or it's, a middle finger extended right in your face with rather rude words being said at the same time. And in that case, your body will respond in kind. So... And then
you don't want to fight with your body.
No, exactly. And then that's where you'll get disease and discomfort and accelerated aging, all those things. So for me, a healthy life or a good life is really about finding out what things can you do, either keep on doing or change, so all the input you give yourself, whether we're thinking at the molecular level, but also, like what people do you interact with, what relationships do you have, make sure that you get mostly something where you say, this is love. And might once in a while be that you eat something that's not healthy, but I'll drink half a bottle of really good wine or champagne because of the enjoyment or the company. That's fine. That's still adding to that pool of self-love, so to speak. And look at what areas am I doing things or subjecting myself to things that, if I think about it, it's not really a declaration of love, and how can I do something about that?
That is wonderful. I've never heard it like that before, but that's a great way to think about health.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Well, thank you.
We learned a lot of great things today.
Good.
So that was Umaro, and we will talk to you again later. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. I'd love to hear your feedback, so please leave comments under this post on my website, juliefouché.com. Also, if you like what you hear, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and give us a rating. And share your thoughts on social media. You can use the hashtag JFHealth with any feedback or questions or ideas for future episodes. So thanks again for listening, and we will catch you next time on Pursuing Health.